All right, Matt, fine. I will mention it just because you have asked. Our last episode was episode 69. There. Are you happy now?
I am happy, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. Welcome, everybody, to the Level With Me podcast. Happy New Year's. 2024 is behind us now. It is now 2025. I'm very excited for it. We have a Patreon also. If you want to support the podcast, check us out. Watch us live. We do have some people watching live right now. And we have a post-podcast show that we do for the live members as well. So check that out in the description. Matt, I know you're big on New Year's resolutions. I know you've got like a whole list lined up for you. What's changing for you in 2025? What's the big plan?
I actually am the complete opposite. I think New Year's resolutions are silly. But yes. If I had to choose a New Year's resolution, try to be a little bit more outgoing and try to get out there and do new things and stuff. But that's like vague and
that's not a resolution. You got to say something like talk to a new person every other day or something like that.
That's silly.
Yeah. Oh, it's silly. It's silly. Yeah, I know you don't like New Year's resolutions, which is why I brought it up. I think I'm going to become a gymfluencer, you know?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Most people are like, join a gym, right?
Yeah. You can start selling supplements and all that. And you can be on TRT, but not tell anyone and just be like, I'm all natural. Mm-hmm. I'm a dad, but I look like this, all natural. But in reality, you're just absolutely juiced to the gills. Yeah.
They'll figure it out when I go into cardiac arrest. But it's like everybody's like, oh, I'm going to join a gym. And it's like, take it to the next level, become a gymfluencer and be that person that's like getting annoyed at people when they walk in front of your workout recording. You're like, excuse me, I'm doing a gun show over here and you're like trying to work out in my space.
Ironically, that would actually probably be a better way to get in shape. Is because it then becomes like a job, which is how you actually want to usually make changes, is to make it like into routine.
Monetize it, baby.
Well, I mean, not really, but yes, you want to. It's discipline is more important than motivation. So
yeah, so that's some good New Year resolution advice there. You know, it's like pick an idea, but then make sure you put it up on social media and make that your real motivation.
Don't
is
do
subscriber
growth.
Yeah. Have you heard about the I think it's called like the dead internet theory? Something like.
Oh yes,
You've heard about that? Yeah. The idea that we're on social media browsing, but it's like 80%, if not more, of the content is all bots, and it's not just bot posted content, but even the responses to the content are bots. And so we're on there thinking that we're engaging with humanity, but we're actually just engaging with bots that have taken over all the social media spheres.
Yeah, it's going to get worse too. Did you hear about Meta and how they're going to be adding AI generated Instagram and like accounts and stuff and Facebook accounts?
Yeah, I did hear a bit about that. I know that was kind of part of their plan from the very beginning, was to like integrate tools so that on your Facebook account, you could be like, oh, well, instead of me having to respond to people on a personal basis, just read all my posts, learn what I sound like, and then talk for me.
That's awful.
What a nightmare, dude.
That is awful. Yeah.
This is why we do this podcast with our faces on the screen, because we're not just AI generating it.
Though, funnily enough, in probably 5 years, that won't even be a
you can do it already.
Factor.
You can do it already. There's a guy I do board game night with was like, hey, check this out. And he pulled up his phone and he had ingested all the board game rules into some AI app and then had two people talking about the rules like it was a podcast.
Yep.
And
I've seen that.
And then you can like ask him questions about it. And you're like, well, what happens if on turn 2 I need to draw 2 cards? And they'll be like, well, it's funny you should mention turn 2. And you're like, what is happening right now?
And they have like banter, and it's like they have chemistry, and it's scary.
Our days are numbered, sir. But yeah, that's why we're here, because you can see our faces, and it's not quite. I've seen some AI generated people that's pretty convincing, but I mean, let's be honest, we don't have the budget to AI gen ourselves
we definitely don't have the budget. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's fascinating how they're going to add like Facebook profiles and stuff that have like everything filled out. So it looks like a real person, but it's completely generated just so they can boost their engagement. So that when you post a picture and then you've got this random old lady message you, oh, that's a wonderful teacup you have. It's actually just AI trying to make you more engaged in their platform.
It is so dystopian if you think about it, right? Because if you took away the interfaces for a second, it would be like all these people talking to nothing, essentially, right? You're just by yourself in a void, thinking you're interacting with people or things, and you're not. You're just talking to the system.
To literally nothing, yeah.
It's the Matrix, but you're the only one in it.
No. I've been seeing commercials there's like some new AI where you just talk to it. You just ask it questions, you have conversations with it. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And I could see some uses for it, where if you have questions about, you're making some changes to your car, you need to, mechanical changes to your car, it could answer maybe something for that, or you're cooking something and you want some advice. But like, just straight up like, how's your day?
Yeah.
How you doing?
The creepy thing is like right now, we're like, that's creepy and weird. Give it 3 to 4 years and it's going to be like normal. Be
You're
like,
not
wait,
gonna be able to tell the difference.
You don't have like an AI best friend, dude?
Yeah.
Who's your AI best friend? What's your AI best friend's name?
It could literally turn into that, yeah.
Gonna be some weird stuff. Let's talk about games before I get 2025 is going to be great. AI will not take over the world. There's not going to be some nuclear war. We're all going to be good.
Why are we going all the way to that extreme?
Well, that's what the extremes are, right? People are like, oh, AI is going to
hopefully that is the extreme.
Yeah.
Aliens could already be here with all these drones flying around.
That'd be great.
That definitely weirdly have the same shape of airplanes.
Yeah. I love the internet, man. They'll pick anything where they're just like, oh, it's definitely a flying saucer. You're like, there's the wings and the jet engines. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The aliens definitely have jet engines. That's how they got here.
They could.
Yeah, maybe. I'm all for it, man. I'm a believer that alien life exists, not necessarily that they're here already.
Yeah.
But that'd be cool.
It would be cool. As long as they're here to like save us, please save us.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay, so we already know what the Game of the Year awards have like awarded as best Game of the Years. But what was your Game of the Year, Matt?
Helldivers.
Okay. What do you think you played the most this year in 2024?
According to my Steam charts, it was Satisfactory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those games will just suck you right in, man.
Yeah. And if I had to give a second place, it would be Satisfactory. The only reason why I wouldn't give Satisfactory first is that that's just how much I loved Helldivers. It's just, there was that like 4 months or 2 months, 3 months that it's all I wanted to play. It was a really community-based game and it was a blast.
That's cool, man. Yeah. My Steam would put Substance Painter is my most played game because I bought a
Substance Painter.
Yeah,
that's for your modeling, right? I'm assuming for the
it's for painting 3D models. But Adobe bought the software and want to charge a monthly fee, but you can still get a single price point for the whole software forever if you buy it on Steam. So I run that software on Steam now so that I don't have to cough up a monthly subscription.
Don't you love just not owning things anymore? It's great.
Super cool. Adobe and Autodesk have become like my 2 least favorite companies outside of, because they're just like, hey, remember all those programs you used to own? Not no more. Now you got to pay $100 a month. And you're like, great. What if I'm like an indie developer who doesn't have a profit model yet? And they're like, $100 a month, $1,000 a month. And as soon as you become like somebody of note, they're like, yeah, that'll be like $3,000 a month, and you're like, okay, like back off, guys.
Nonsense.
Yeah. And you know what you get for it? Zero innovation and a monopoly. Cool. I love it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because Substance Painter was a great program. Yeah. And whenever there's a great competing program to one of the main,
they gobble it up.
They just buy it. And that's what happened. And you're like, oh, that's a nice way to not have to innovate ever. Okay.
I mean, you could say they're innovating by incorporating, and that's innovation because those other people had to prove themselves.
Yeah. Now for me, and I don't know if it's just because it's recent and I'm thinking about it, but I've clocked a lot of hours in Path of Exile 2 now. I like it a lot. It's up there for Game of the Year contender for me. I also like Stalker 2 a lot, but just the bugginess of it won't get up there.
Did you beat Stalker 2?
No, so I couldn't give it that. And I've put a lot more hours into a lot of other games than Stalker 2, but I appreciate the visuals and the ambiance of it a lot.
Yeah. Stalker 2 is fantastic. Okay, that's too much. Stalker 2 is fun. Stalker 2 is really good when it works, and they're already making changes. They already added the A Life system kind of back, I hear, with problems. Yeah. But yeah, it's the end game. It's like once you reach a certain point, like halfway, it becomes like, oh, they clearly ran out of time. This needed way, way more time in the oven. Yeah. And it works, it does, and it's playable, but it was not ready for release. And so I would not, for me personally, it doesn't deserve even really to be nominated for Game of the Year, but that's just me.
I agree with you. I don't think it deserves a nomination based on the quality state that it came out in, but it is still one of those like weird things that's got like enough good stuff in there. It's overrides the bad, it's like clearly far from a perfect game, but it's still a very notable game.
They've shown that they're in it for the long haul, and hopefully they are. And with mods and another probably year of development, I can't wait to go back into that and just like sink another,
I think
50
they made
hours into it.
Killing on the sales. Like I think they mocked up.
I think they did too.
They can easily dump a year, if not more, of dev time into it, and
they'll keep getting more sales as time goes on with patches,
and then DLC it. The DLCs for the other Stalkers were, well, they're games. They kind of had like other games that felt kind of like DLCs, but yeah, it's a great way to expand the story and stuff. I will say, I think my virtual pinball machine is also one of my games of the year, even though it's not a new thing. It's just it's new for me. Yeah. And it's special, and I still spend a lot of time on it. And I will be doing a review at some point, but
I've been waiting for it.
The guys are dragging their feet on the 3.0 software, man. Like, I was supposed to get it with 3.0 software, and apparently people said that they've been promising it for the past 6 months. So I'm like, okay. Ooh. They're really waiting on that. And the 3.0 software is part of what I'm supposed to review for it. It's like got virtual reality integration and all this other weird stuff. And so I'm like, cool, but it's not here. So
never it's not here. Can't be part of the review if it's not here.
I know. So bummer on that. Yeah, pinball kind of gets my game of the year, I guess, by default, because it's just too cool, man.
You just put too much time into it, yeah. So I'd give it to Helldivers. I mean, I'd give like a nomination to Wukong, which I adored. I really liked it, but I didn't realize Wukong was so divisive. Apparently there's like the Wukong fans who are like, you didn't even nominate Wukong? How dare you? Let alone didn't give it Game of the Year. And then you have people who are like, it was cool. It's like a 7. Like I don't think it's a 7 out of 10. But then it feels like either
what do you think it was?
I think it was a great game. I hate scores. I think scores are nonsense.
How many bowls, Matt?
I give it 2.5 out of 3 bowls.
Okay, that's pretty favorable. Yeah, I mean, I think people, from what I gathered most about Wukong, was that it was very impressive from a production standpoint, and like it was really checking off all the boxes for what a good game should be. But I didn't hear a lot of people talking about the thing that it did so much better than other games, other than the quantity and the quality of it, basically.
Yeah, it's basically a easier Souls-like in a lot of ways, where it was much more approachable. Like, it's hard at moments, and if you go against certain bosses, it will kick you in the teeth. But those are all like side bosses, and as long as you stick to the main story, you're going to be fine for the majority of it. There's a couple of roadblocks, but yeah, it's just more approachable Souls.
Yeah. Did you ever get past your roadblocks in Path of Exile?
Or no, I haven't. I haven't, unfortunately. No.
Yeah.
I've just been playing Balatro.
Yeah. How are you liking it, man?
It's good. Yeah.
I only
learned
picked it up
Texas
Hold'em
of like,
now?
What's that?
You've learned the rules for Texas Hold'em now? Or no?
I have not learned any rules. No.
Okay.
I now know more of like the lingo and stuff like that, like a flush and what, full house means and everything. Because before I had no idea.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I don't like the aesthetic of Balatro. I don't like gambling and cards and stuff like that, at least in that sense. I like, if I'm going to play a card game, I want it to have like pretty pictures and stuff,
and,
like your
goblins and dragons.
Yeah, exactly. And so even then it's just like, kings and aces and whatever, like it's fine. But that's my least favorite. But my favorite part about it is that there is a lot of depth and a lot of ways of being able to overcome the different challenges that you encounter throughout just trying to rise up. Basically, you're trying to make number go up. That's the game. Number go up. And however you want to go about that is the fun. That's kind of the meats of Balatro, and it does it very well.
Yeah. Man, it's one of those games that I see it and I'm like, I would love this. I would love this for hundreds of hours. And I'm like, don't buy the game. Don't buy it. Path of Exile almost got me like fully. My character is doing well, like no roadblocks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the second playthrough was way faster than the first one. Like it was synergizing. I was figuring out all the skill tree stuff.
Nice.
And I just had to pull myself away from it because I got deadlines to meet, man. I got goals to do, all that fun stuff. So
you have to be an adult?
I had to be an adult. Yeah. But it was taking away many a sleepless night for me. But
I feel that.
Yeah. So there's too many good games that are like so addicting that have got the formula dialed in, where it's like based on either years and years of like crafting something down to like a refined substance
or designed that way inherently.
Yeah, I mean, poker is very addicting, and number games and card games, and even like,
well, they're literally hiring like psychologists and people who literally their entire job is to make their games more addicting, right? Do you see? Speaking of, I mean, we're going all over the place. You see the videos where with the CSGO gambling stuff?
No, something recent.
Yeah, it was some recent videos. I can't remember the YouTuber's name, but he basically did a deep dive into CSGO gambling and like how it's propped up, what the repercussions of it are, and it was fascinating.
Yeah. What are some of the takeaways, man? I mean,
so
obviously bad.
One of the big takeaways that they were trying to showcase was that at least the people that they interviewed and the people that they asked, I think it was like 60 or 70% of the people that got started with CSGO gambling were children, 13 to 14, 15 years old, around there. And they're using skins from Counter-Strike to gamble and potentially make money, right? That's how they got addicted.
This is what I said, and Hoagie in chat is saying CoffeeZilla was the YouTuber.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
You remember when T. Martin and Syndicate?
It was like 2016. It was a long time. It was actually like a long time ago.
And I like brought this up, and I was like, "Hey, man! Like these guys are their audiences are children. They are promoting gambling to children. Like everybody's brushing this off like it's a nothing burger, but this is heinous. Like, and nobody like made an example of them. All the ad agencies
kind
were
of
like,
did. They did get slapped a little bit on the wrist, right? Like some people, because they're still, I think they're still making content, and I'm not advocating that they should have just lost their careers or anything, but it was a really slimy thing to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was just I found it interesting because that was kind of like not right in the midst of, but it was around about cancel culture era, and people were like pointing out different things. I'm like, hey, these guys are like lying about owning a gambling site and promoting it to children, and it like got a day of headlines. And then I remember turning down some like events because I had to like show up and like promo stuff next to them. And I was like, I'm not gonna. Nobody has any standards anymore, man. It's all just like advertise. Who cares about the morality?
Well, that was actually one thing that they brought up in this, is that CSGO gambling is so popular and they make so much money that it's infiltrated into every little crack and crevice of Counter-Strike, where now tournaments, if you want to have a tournament, it's going to be sponsored by CSGO gambling websites, like across the board. And you're not going to be competitive if you don't have those sponsorships because the money just won't be there.
Well, do you remember the ad money that they offered you to promote stuff? Because I mean,
no, I never got. No,
they offered me stuff, and the rates were like 10x whatever other people were offering. I won't name names, but there were some YouTubers that were kind of like within our sphere that started doing a lot of those ads and like just straight up retired like a year later. And I was like, oh my God, like, it pays to not have the moral compass, I guess, or whatever. But
what was interesting is, and this it makes sense, right? But he also interviewed content creators who do that content, right? That's like their main thing is like the play CS, but they also mainly do like the lotto stuff. Yeah. And it was really interesting to see them wiggle and try to justify what they were doing because they knew what they were doing was maybe not. They actually even straight up admitted. They even got people that worked on these like at these companies that actually were, making the websites, even admitting that this is wrong and that it's addicting to children and is like going after children. But they're still doing it. But for the content creators, they're making like there was 2 of them that were interviewed that made like $4 million last year, $4 million. And just disgusting amounts of money for what, I don't even think they were I don't know how big they were, but that's nuts. And there was one guy in particular who said that he had a friend who was really addicted to gambling. And when the paycheck comes in, he just spends it immediately. And he tries to help him so that he will actually like save money and not just spend it. And then the interviewer was like, so why do you do this then? If you know it's so bad that your friend is suffering and he's so addicted, and he's just like, because basically came down to, I'm making so much goddamn money. Screw you.
Yeah. We know why. Why. Cause they say everybody has a price, which I don't think is totally true, but
everyone I think does to some extent. Like,
maybe. Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends what the circumstances
If someone came up and was like, hey, I'll give you $1 billion to slap this kid, you're going to slap the kid, right?
Yeah, but that's slapping a kid. I mean, like, the crimes can get more heinous than that. But anyway.
I agree. But yes.
I'll slap a kid.
I'm saying for the most part, level cap. Unless it's like something horrible. Yes,
what is important, and I want this on record, is that I think we are both okay slapping children for $1 billion. If anybody wants to offer us, we'll go out there. We'll slap a kid.
I would slap that kid, give him half of it, and be like, "You're welcome. You're good for like ever now. You and your family."
That lawsuit. What are you gonna lose? $1 couple mil or something? Yeah. Big deal. Slapped a kid. Where
Yeah. But continue.
Oh man. Yeah. No. So it sucks. It really sucks. Some countries have legislated around this stuff a little bit better than others. There's a huge amount of money in it, almost no regulation, and our gambling definitions and laws over here, because I did research this stuff a bit around the kind of cracking down on loot boxes and stuff like that. We have really outdated definitions of gambling. So as long as you start to get away from actual money and you start gambling with things that aren't money but can easily be turned into money, it's like all of a sudden it doesn't show up on the gambling laws, and you're like, okay. Things get very gray, and very few of the people can justify it.
The final piece that he had was basically going after Valve. This is all really Valve's, and this is what I've been saying, I think, even on this podcast, that this entire industry.
Does Valve make from the gambling? Did he
apparently
get into
they made
that?
like $1 billion just on CSGO skins and Counter-Strike 2 skins last year, or I think it was like $1 billion.
Is that because where do they make their money? Is it on keys that they sell?
It's the keys that they sell, and then I think if there's any sale, they get pushed back on that too.
Okay, I thought all the sales were done on gray sites, so they didn't get any of the gray
but
market.
I think there still has to be an exchange. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that.
I mean, the key sales alone, right? Because that's what the guys streaming it and whatever do, is they just buy the keys and then open up loot boxes and stuff.
Yeah. Which just so happens to look like a slot machine. Weird how that is.
Yeah.
Weird.
No, I mean it's very obvious what's going on. That's interesting. I'll check out the documentary on that. Probably no surprises there. I'm sure none of the influencers who are doing it are going to surprise me with their moral integrity or
probably not
or whatnot. But it is just one of the shady areas of the interwebs, and maybe this documentary or this spotlight, whatever the YouTube video, whatever you want to call it, we'll make some changes.
We'll get Valve to change. I doubt it because they're making so much money, and for some reason, everyone. I love Steam. I like Valve. They seem to do a lot of great things, but this is one part that really I do not like.
Yeah,
this is the one thing where I'm like, why can they get away with it?
You love Steam because what other options do you really have at the end of the day?
I mean, you got EA. What do they even call it these days?
Exactly.
EA app.
Yeah. What a terrible name. Was it? Yeah. What was it before EA app? It
Origin.
That's better than EA app. And it's like, whatever, pick a name. It doesn't matter what the name is.
There's the Epic launcher.
Yeah. What is Ubisoft? Uplay or something?
Uplay, Ubi Connect.
Yeah, they changed it.
Yeah,
it was Uplay, and then they're like Why can't these companies just stick with the name?
I think it might just be Ubisoft Connect now, but hell if I know.
Somebody in advertising is like, you know why this isn't taking off? It's the name. We need to change the name. Yeah, we've only sunk $100 million into advertising the previous name. Let's change it. Oh, these big companies. I did want to kind of look back a little bit at 2024 and some of the funny things that have happened, some of the weird things. Like one of the things that I found interesting, and I did cover quite a bit while it was happening, was the NVIDIA's RTX remix stuff. I thought that was fascinating. I just thought it was such a cool way to mod a game without actually having to mod a game.
Yeah, just using NVIDIA's technology to update the graphics, basically.
In real time, where you're not changing the actual core files of the game in any way whatsoever. I was like, that is so cool. I know they're pumping money into it, and they're doing it to remaster Half-Life 2 in some sort of collaboration with Valve, and the remaster looks incredible, but we're still waiting on that. But I'm still very hopeful for the future of RTX Remix. I think they made it open source this year, but I'll have to check on that. I know that was their plan to do that. So I'm very curious to see like what happens next year with all that technology, because it seems like one of the more powerful modding and also like game preservation tools around. So I think that's cool. I think that was a pretty cool thing that happened in 2024. The very beginning of 2024 had Pal World, and the Steam most profitable Steam game list came out recently, and Pal World was like number 2 on there. Can you believe that?
It literally took over the world for a bit.
It's still nuts though, because nobody's talking about it now, right? Like,
I mean, there was a little bit. They just came out with an expansion, but yeah, you're right.
Okay, yeah, it definitely faded off, but I think that was a pretty small team that made it, and they were pretty novice in a lot of ways, and they just made.
It has 188,000 24-hour peak, by the way.
Okay, what am I saying then? Dear God, dude. Nintendo tried to sue them, didn't they?
I think they did, and I think they've made some changes already.
Yeah. I mean, but those dudes they must have made billions.
They made an unbelievable amount of money. Yeah,
that is wild.
It topped out on Steam alone at 2.1 million concurrent players.
Mm-hmm.
That's an ungodly amount of people.
So crazy to think that was the second most profitable game.
Yeah.
At least on Steam of 2024.
What was number 1?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Let's look it up. Steam 2024 most profitable games. Best of Steam 2024. Because I think they published it. Oh man, they're not doing it in order anymore.
Lame.
It was in order. I swear it was in order.
Let's make a list, but not in order.
Yeah. Well, so like we've got like Elden Ring on there, Space Marine 2, Helldivers 2.
Not surprising.
Pal World is on there. Yeah.
We ate good this year. I think anything like was a standout. This is kind of my theme that I've been saying. There wasn't an Elden Ring. even though there was, because there was the DLC, right? But it wasn't on the same level as Elden Ring when it, like the original. There wasn't a Baldur's Gate, right? But it was just like consistent, like across the board, month after month after month, just like banger after banger, just really consistent games.
This last month too, I mean, we're getting like Indiana Jones, people, we've still got Path of Exile, like updating stuff. I mean, Stalker 2 came out end of the year. Like there's a lot of good stuff that happened like right at the last minute too, which is going to get forgotten in the next year's Game Awards. But what do you, we've talked a little bit about 2025 in terms of what you're looking forward to, but what do you
basically the month of February, because that's all we really know right now, because there's going to be, we're going to know more about the Doom game.
The medieval one.
That looks super cool. We get like a shield now, and you get like parry, and it looks dope.
Like it seems obvious when you see the trailer. You're like, of course. Why wouldn't you do it in medieval times?
Exactly. So very hyped for that. But February has, so right off the rip, there's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Civilization, Avowed, Monster Hunter Wilds, and there's one more in there. And it's all within a month. It was Assassin's Creed Shadows. So,
that is wild, dude.
That is February.
Yeah, you're gonna be having a fun streaming month.
Yeah.
What was your so my biggest disappointment of the year for me in terms of like games that I was really looking forward to that did not measure up? Homeworld 3 is my biggest disappointment of the year. Played it all the way through just on principle, played their little roguelite RTS idea, which was a really good idea, just poorly executed. And it failed in almost every way. Like,
sucks.
The strategic controls were really lame and jank. There wasn't really any point in the verticality of the game at all. Your units never did what you wanted them to do. You're like, why are all these units going in before the other ones when I set the formation? So they're all supposed to move at the same. It was just all over the place. So the controls sucked. Then we have the narrative of that game. Just it was so bad. It was like young adult fiction, basically.
Which has its place, but it's done poorly.
Yeah, and also if the first game is like kind of this Battlestar type narrative that's very serious and about the survival of humanity, and then this one was like about a woman trying to figure out her confidence or something like that, and you're like, it's a different vibe. And then their multiplayer stuff was kind of lame. I still follow them because I love the artwork so much, and I'm like, maybe their roguelite will like get patched enough and be good at some point. I do want it to be good, but that's more me just wishing that it wasn't a disaster. It's like SimCity for me again. It's like I love SimCity as a franchise so much, and when EA dropped that last game, I was just sticking around like, it'll get better, guys. It'll be fine, right?
Yep.
Trying to find the silver linings in total denial about how bad the game is.
I'm trying to think of, because I don't usually dwell on games that I was really disappointed by or look forward to, and then I'm just like, oh, that sucked, and just moved on. So I don't really have an answer for you.
Yeah,
I have to give it some thought, because I've played so many goddamn games. It's hard to remember every single one of them, let alone if it meets that qualification.
It's a weird anomaly of 2024. I don't even know how to classify it, but like Gray Zone Warfare was a game that had a huge amount of hype before it came out, right? Like, everyone was talking about it because the graphics were insane, and it was sort of doing extraction, but on a level that nobody had seen it before. Then it kind of came out. It sold incredibly well. I think they made a buttload, and they're sort of committed to supporting the game for a while, but it was clear when it launched into early access that they were like years away from where they wanted to be. And so it's kind of like an interesting thing where it sold so well. People were like, this is neat, but it seems like the beginning of something neat, and there's not really much to do once we've done the missions and stuff.
The plight of early access.
Yeah. So I think that game's interesting because I do think they're going to follow through, but I'm wondering how long it's going to take before it becomes interesting enough where it starts to regain an audience. You know, it might be a full another year. I checked out their latest update and it was neat. They're making progress and good progress, but it doesn't have enough yet to kind of hit that critical mass and sustain like a good player base.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yep, good points. It's an early access game. It's one of the reasons why I'm getting tired of buying early access titles, because I'll play them and they'll be like, that was fun, but then I'll have like I'll just in my brain, I'm like, I beat it. I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm not coming back, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people also fit into that category where they played it, like that was okay, maybe. I might come back, but a lot of people they play something they don't come back to it. That's why DLCs usually never take off for a lot of titles, and why they don't make DLCs much anymore is because people just don't come back to buy them.
That's disappointing, man. That it does suck because it's looking at it from the perspective of somebody like, because I'm working on my own game, the dream would be the game to do really well and to warrant being able to keep working on it and make DLCs for it, right? And then if that's not a profitable model, then that sucks, because you're like, okay, well, I made a game that I'm really proud of and I like, and I'd love to keep working on it, but the profit model says I just need to make a different game now instead of continuing.
Well, I don't know the economics on a macro scale or anything like that. This is just what I've heard through being on the internet chronically, right?
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure it makes sense for some games, but you're probably right on like the larger scale, because that's the trend that most devs do, is they're like, oh, okay, like we've done the math and it's going to be way more profitable just to make a sequel than to make 3 DLCs for this game.
Yeah.
And then they just make a sequel and you're like, dang, we could have gotten a super game, a super well refined game that had tons and tons of content that like for years and years would be recommended, but nah, they're just going to make a sequel, you know? So.
Yeah. So I'm like, we've talked about Gray Zone before and how I'm looking forward to its development, because it looks like it's going to be good, but it's got a long ways to go.
Plus, in like 2 years, people will have computers that can run it at a decent frame rate.
It actually run at a decent. Yeah, we might be getting those 5090s soon for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, buy that Nvidia stock. They just bought some new AI company. Man, Nvidia's unstoppable, man. They're big. They're on fire. We should have bought that Nvidia stock.
You should have.
Yeah. I have an Nvidia Christmas sweater. They sent it to me in the mail one year.
Oh.
And now
I was like, why did you get an Nvidia Christmas sweater?
I don't know. Yeah, I did some GPU promotion with them one year, and then they sent me a Christmas sweater, and I'm like,
nice. That was lovely of them. I'm sure you wear it all the time.
I do. I feel like I'm part of the company now. Have you seen all the crazy hype around like this mythical GTA 6 trailer too?
No,
you haven't seen it. So like the Grand Theft Auto community, I haven't been following it too closely, but they've like worked themselves up into a fervor that like somehow a new trailer's coming out before the end of the year. And I think it's all based on just like nothing. Like maybe somebody
this is why I don't give like leaks and stuff like that any credits, because this happens all the time. Where like, there's going to be some news, it's going to happen, and then nothing happens, and you always forget those moments. Right. But they remember the part where it's like, oh, they were right the one time.
Yeah. But so this happens with lots of games and lots of things. But because it's Grand Theft Auto 6, which is going to be the biggest game ever when it comes out, probably, I don't think there's any way around
just
it.
Just by the name alone.
Yeah. That the fervor around like leaks and people spreading rumors and stuff has like gotten to this level that's true insanity. And like for a while I was like, where do I get to watch this next Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer? And it was all just trolls and memes and all this craziness. And like it took a while to hunt down the actual info, and they're like, there is no second trailer. People like, it's just the community
making it, or it's all rumors.
Yeah, going insane. But I did read, it was like a Forbes article or something that was about how they're like, yeah, we expect it to make at least a solid $3 billion in the first year. And you're like, oh boy.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the most expensive games they've ever made. Just
it
in general.
Should be. I hope it is, because I mean, there was like some report that came out that they were making like 500 mil a month or something on like GTA Online. You're just like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rockstar. My God. Certainly they've lived up to their name, man.
Yeah.
It's annoying when cool companies like that, like Epic Games, are like, yeah, we're pretty epic. We definitely did all the epic stuff. And you're like, dang it, you guys did. You lived up to your name. Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah. Oh man. It's funny because I was looking at I was looking back through some of my videos that I made over the years, over this year, and like just kind of looking at some of the high points, and it reminded me of all the fun stuff that happened with Tarkov this year. Tarkov is still going strong. They just had a wipe too. Yeah. People have been complaining about it, but I feel like nothing can kill Tarkov at this point because they've been trying their hardest, and Tarkov
to kill it or to make a game,
just to make bad decisions, basically, that could potentially that would kill other games, right? Like Tarkov Unheard of Edition. Remember when that dropped this year?
I do. That was a low point for the game.
What was the price point to like
$240 or something bananas?
Yeah, over $200 to basically get an advantage, or just like to be on par with other players or whatever. Most people,
it was an advantage.
I think a lot of people bought it, right?
To my understanding, what they had is they got rid of the Edge of Darkness edition, which was the base, not the base. It was basically the base edition, because if you wanted to not have a stash that was like the size of a walnut, you needed to fork over the extra money, right?
Yeah.
But then they're like, okay, we're getting rid of that. And then they came on in and wiggled on in. We're like, we have a new edition for all of you to buy. And it's like over $200.
Yeah. You totally don't have to buy it, but all the guys who have it are going to stomp on you.
Well, they're not going to stomp on you, but they are going to have more space.
Some of the advantages were like you had like a pocket or whatever that would save your stuff or something like that, right?
Well, you always have the butt pocket, right?
But it was like bigger or better or something.
Your actual pocket could put mags in it now. The 1x2 mag, and so it's basically extra space. Once again, in a game where it's all about loot and how much you can bring in, extra space literally means you can bring in more money or take out more money.
Well, it's wild to me. I find the whole dynamic wild because Tarkov has, I mean, they've made so many bad decisions that you could argue are borderline abusive towards their player base, and every other company in the world seems like they're trying to take on Tarkov, right? We've had so many Tarkov clones and competitors drop this year. And
have there been any, and I agree, but have there been any like AAA ones yet? And I would say no. There's been companies that have tried, but at the end of the day, they have made a lot of money and they have a lot of funding behind them. And while they're technically still a indie company, they ain't published or they ain't funded like an indie company.
Yeah, no, they've got indie roots, so they can get away with their indie jank for whatever reason, even though they're making hundreds of millions of dollars, I guess. Although they were like rumoring that they were running out of money, which is why they did that.
What they did,
Darkness edition or whatever they called it, unheard of edition. Yeah. Is Tarkov Arena still a thing? That came out for a little bit.
They've been trying. They've implemented it now, where there's like your progress will swap.
Yeah. Okay, so you can play Arena and progress and upgrade your character in
a little bit. Yeah, you can get like better. You can level up so that you can unlock the different traders and stuff.
Okay.
And so there's some crossover now, but I don't know how much it actually helped with the player retention for that mode specifically.
Yeah. It's just it's been an interesting year for Tarkov, all things considered, and now it seems like it's still doing well. People get upset with every wipe for whatever reason because they're like, I don't want to run all the missions again, but then they do it, and other people.
I think the reason why Tarkov is so ingrained and why it doesn't go away is because there literally isn't anything else that like it. There's nothing like Tarkov. And when you do have competitors, like we got Delta Force, we've got Arena Breakout, I think those games are still doing well. And I think that they're like holding their own a little bit. I just don't think that they hold a candle to the tension that Tarkov gives you. And they're really like, I played Tarkov for one night since the wipe, and like you get into a firefight and your heart just starts beating. You're just like, what the hell? Like I don't get this same feeling when I'm playing Delta Force at even close.
Sure.
Like maybe I'll like feel a little bit of tension, but if there's just something about Tarkov where it just gets in, you just get into the headspace, and it's very immersive.
Yeah, they found the formula, man, and for better or for worse, I think it's going to be around for forever. It's just going to be the game.
The one competitor that I can't wait for is Arc Raiders. I really like the atmosphere of that. I don't know if it'll actually, because I can't predict the future, but I really hope that one has some legs, because it's such a cool environment and world to just exist in.
I'm very much rooting for that company that I can never remember the name of. Embark Studios. I'm rooting for them, man. And it's not just because they're ex-Dice devs, but just like they're kind of a AA, almost AAA studio, whatever you want to call them. And they're taking risks. They're going out there, they're trying new stuff. It's not like a brand new idea altogether, but they're like, it's enough new stuff to put their games on the radar, and they're taking risks where almost every other major company's like, nah, just clone that game and change the color, and you're like, okay, that's pretty boring. And so, yeah, I've become an Embark fanboy for them actually bringing new stuff to the world. So I am looking forward to that one as well. It'll be sick to get into.
Agreed.
Yeah. Have you, it's funny. Did you check out the book, The Lions of Alrasan? I think that's how it's pronounced. Okay. Just curious, because so for Christmas, the holidays, my wife got me the first of the book that you read, the Way of Kings. Is that it?
Oh, Way of Kings. Yeah.
So I got it on audiobook, and I got to get into it. And she's almost done with the second one now. But she, in between, read a book called I think it's called The Lions of Alrasan. And I mentioned it to you, because she just gave it like a raving review of like, this is like the best fantasy book ever.
Damn.
I was like, Matt must have read it.
Lions of what? Alrasan? Yeah, it looks like I have searched for it. Okay.
It's an older one.
It's older, 1995.
Yeah. But it's fantasy. It's not like they need technology to write fantasy better.
No. I think I don't actually consider that to be very old for books, right?
Yeah.
Like if you start getting to like 1960s. So there was a change that happened in like certain, for like fantasy. Like fantasy wasn't really even a thing before Tolkien, right? And then of course it was, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By modern day standards. And then as you go along, you'll notice like it changes and morphs. Like you get to like 2000s and you get like George R. R. Martin influence and stuff like that. Like those influences change the way that, so yes, it does matter, but in the grand scheme of things, the date doesn't really impact it too much. And ironically, some of the best fantasy is older fantasy that somehow predicted and or was written like it was modern, which is so bizarre, like Dune, right?
Yeah. Dune still feels like a modern book, which is wild.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it is fantasy. It's sci-fi fantasy-ish, but because it's not related on sci-fi tech as much as it is sort of the sci-fi, the fantasy world they create.
Yeah, it literally has magic.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right. You consume the spice and you can bend space and time and become a demigod,
Yeah, and force people to bend to your will with your voice, right?
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty magical.
It's science it's like
space magic.
It is. It's the Force. It's Star Wars, the Force. Yeah. Sci fantasy, as I would argue, Matt. We've had this argument many a times, our nerdy arguments. I'm curious to know what books you're reading, because I'm gonna try and get into that one when I got a nice block of time.
I'm currently reading through the final, or at least the 5th book for Stormlight Archive, Wind and Truth, right now. I've been taking my time. I've been slow. I've been just busy because of the holidays, but yeah, that's the one I'm currently working through.
Yeah. Did you say, I think it was like Jacksepticeye had posted like a signed copy of Wind in Truth or whatever on his profile, or like, I think he had one sent to him from the author or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. I want to get to that status where I can like I
want to be friends with Brandon Sanderson. Are you kidding me?
Pretty cool, man.
Sick.
I was such a nerd when I was younger. I was like fanboys of game designers, and which was hard to do because the internet was not in full swing yet. So you really had to figure out who made a game and like get out there, you know, like everybody knew who like John Carmack was or something like that. But like I was a fan of Chris Taylor, who is the guy who made Total Annihilation, and he made Dungeon Siege, which was an action RPG that was kind of Diablo-esque, Diablo 2. Yeah. And they were giving out signed copies of Dungeon Siege if you were like the first person to like click a link or something like that. And I just one day just sat on a website and was like refreshing all
the
day.
Hell out of it.
And I got it, and I've still got my binder around here somewhere with a golden CD of Dungeon Siege, signed by Chris Taylor, which it means something to me. It has value to me, Matt. It has value to me.
Yeah. Well, you also didn't get it necessarily because it had monetary value, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like as a kid, I was just like, oh my God, this game's going to be amazing. And it was cool, but yeah. Broken end game. Now that was a game you could brick a character in. So like I can't remember. It's been so long since I played Dungeon Siege, but it didn't lock you into any class types, which I was like, whoa, so innovative, right? But it also wasn't balanced. So I was like, I will be a warrior and a mage because then I can do all the best things. And then I got to like rank 70 or something. And it was like, guess what? You suck now.
You can't do enough damage.
There was no path forward. And I was just like, I think I have to start over.
Sucks.
Yeah. But it was a neat game for its time, man. It was one of the first, I think it was one of the first truly 3D like action RPGs that was like, hey, we're going to do the Diablo 2 thing, but 3Dify it. And in my mind, I remember the graphics being amazing, but I'm willing to bet
too bad
that they don't hold up as well.
It's 2002, so it's not like it is ancient.
Yeah.
But it's pretty old. Pretty old in game terms.
I'm going to go back to that.
Nothing stopping you other than maybe,
drivers.
You can't literally do it because sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be a game that would get restored. But his Total Annihilation, that's got like so many fan remakes and spiritual successors. There's a free-to-play version of Total Annihilation that you can just download. It's like a fan remake, and it has multiplayer support and all this stuff. And there's like a little community that'll play matches because it was like an unhindered RTS where Command and Conquer and StarCraft were out, and they're like, you can have this many units at a time, and this is how the economy is set up, and like you can't get any bigger or crazier than that. And Total Annihilation was like, what if we just don't put a cap on anything, and we let people grow their economies at an exponential rate, like Factorio style, where you're like, well, I'll build a power plant, and then I'll build a metal extractor, and then I'll build 2 power plants and 2 metal extractors. And then it just gets crazier and crazier. And all of a sudden you've got armies of like 10,000 units going towards 10,000 other units, and your computer's crashing and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it was good times. Yeah, there we go. Hoagie in chat is like, I love Total Annihilation. And then they
made another one. They made it like where it was around like planets, wasn't it?
Well, they made Supreme Commander, which was Chris Taylor coming back and making a spiritual successor, because I don't think he had the name rights anymore. So he basically remade Total Annihilation, and Supreme Commander was awesome. But then they made another one called Planetary Annihilation, but I don't think that's Chris Taylor. I think somebody came in but that project was very much a fanboy project of the Total Annihilation concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah, you could planetary annihilation. You could fight on the side of a planet, but then you could go into space, and then you could build like a rocket engine on a moon, and then ram that moon into somebody else's planet, and just be like, you know what? I'm not going to fight you on this peasant ground war. I'm just going to blow up your planet with like a planetary collision. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
those games, man.
That game looked neat.
Yeah,
but I never played
just
it.
Eat up your time, dude.
And it felt like it came out somewhat recently, but it actually came out in 2015. So it's been almost a decade.
Pretty old, man. I still get excited for RTSs for whatever reason. But I like those style. I get less excited about StarCraft clones or something where I'm like, yeah, I like ones that just
it's
go
evolved
bonkers.
now. There's like, we still have your traditional StarCrafts, but now we have MOBAs and we have your Total Wars and your, there are differences these days. It has evolved a bit.
Yeah. Did you know that I'm only thinking about this because of the crazy leak that happened, but Halo, the original Halo started off as an RTS because Bungie was an RTS company. They
do have Halo Wars.
Yeah, but that came out way after.
Right.
So the original Halo was going to be an RTS. Bungie was known for making the Myth series, which is an RTS, a fantasy RTS game. And so there was a huge leak recently where the original Macworld demo files and the original build of Halo before Microsoft bought Bungie or made the deal with Bungie got leaked. And so you can download it and load it up and play the demo that like Steve Jobs showed off at Macworld in 1999.
That's wild.
Yeah, it came out like a couple weeks ago or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super freaking cool. Probably means nothing to most people out there, but as a kid, that was like one of the most influential gaming moments of my era, was like seeing Halo revealed and just fanboying out on Halo like crazy. The original concept for Halo, it's actually much similar to Halo Infinite in that it was kind of like a Far Cry style game before Far Cry existed, if that makes sense. So like the original premise was like massive levels and seamless transitions. Yeah. So that was the whole design for the original game, was seamless transitions and massive levels. Open world. And I don't even know if open world was even a term back then. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but there weren't enough games that were open world so that they were just like a giant game where you could go anywhere. Yeah. And then Microsoft bought it and they had to basically kind of turn it into a more traditional FPS game. And it's still very cool and groundbreaking for its time, but like the original vision was this crazy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how games develop and change.
Yeah.
Even, over a couple within the company and even within the same game. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you're building it to run on a computer and then Microsoft's like, "Hey, this is going to be a console exclusive on our console. You have 1/10 the horsepower to do it." And they're like, "Well, pivot." Yeah. But I'm excited by those files leaking, because now you can look at the original prototype of the game and be like, oh yeah, this was going to be huge. Like the world was going to be massive. You'd be able to drive the Warthog like over hills and miles to get to your mission objectives and stuff. I'm like, I like that idea. That sounds really cool. I mean, now they made Halo Infinite, right? And sort of the cat's out of the bag at this point. Far Cry style games have been around for quite a while. So nobody's like, whoa, a giant open world. Oh my God.
And most people are like, oh, another open world game. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, I blame, Ubisoft for just beating that horse to death.
Well, I don't just blame Ubisoft. I blame a lot of companies for making very uninteresting worlds to explore for their open world titles. It's not Ubisoft just their fault.
Fair enough. Ubisoft just kind of replicated their Far Cry and Assassin's Creed formula to death, and then every other company was like, "Well, how do we make an open world game?" I know. Let's look at a Far Cry game and copy everything. Exactly. Yeah. And you're like, cool. This
actually one thing I really liked about, I got to sneeze maybe? Are you going to sneeze?
Are you going to sneeze?
Am I going to sneeze?
You better sneeze. Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze. Are you going to sneeze?
So what I liked about Indiana Jones was it was semi-open world where it would go to like different locations and it would give you the freedom to explore those locations. and it was much more immersive in that way, because it wasn't just like you're in an entire world, go out and just explore everything, but it was more grounded and it was more focused, so that you still had that exploration, but it was not the bloat that comes with a true open world. And I really like that. And I would prefer more games to be that semi-open world than the bloat that we get for all these other titles.
Yeah, because you get a more focused experience, right? As opposed to like you're exploring somewhere and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this level designer didn't put anything in this forest, you know, and you figure it out after 10 minutes of running through the forest. And you're like, okay, this sucks. This is just like a procedurally generated forest with nothing in it. Cool. Yep. So yeah, getting that. I'm in agreement with you. If I love big open world games, but you got to put stuff in them, right? So it's like Zelda games. Some of the later Zelda games are some of my favorite, and the worlds are huge, right? It takes like forever to get across.
But that was actually one of my biggest issues with Breath of the Wild was your reward was just shrines, and it's just like, oh boy, a shrine. And it's like, those are cool.
You don't like puzzles, Matt? You don't like problem solving?
I mean, that's the meat of the game, right? Is the puzzles. So I did like the puzzles, but it's just like, hey, I would rather at that point just give me like, I want to go from one puzzle to another puzzle to another puzzle, because this open world just feels like a place hiding my puzzles or hiding these areas.
Yeah, maybe. I think I don't know. I had a different experience with it wherein I really enjoyed looking around and seeing like, oh, is that a cave up on top of the mountain over there? I bet that cave's a thing. And so like the act of discovering a new shrine was fun for me. So I like that part of it. You know?
The game that I thought did it infinitely better was Elden Ring. Elden Ring. Yeah. You could look out in the distance and be like, I wonder what that is. And you go there, and it's not just a shrine that you spawn into. It's actually like, it's a castle, and you go and explore the entire castle. Right. Yeah. Or it's like, oh, this was a cave, and this cave then just opens up into a giant shrine, you know, underneath this. Like it's gorgeous, right? Like Elden Ring, I think, does the exploration infinitely better, at least compared to. I didn't play a ton.
You know what?
You
were complaining about. I'm going to bring this up because you were complaining about Elden Ring's world while you were playing it a little bit. Because
the DLC I thought was so the DLC had the problem that I think your other open world games have, where there's gorgeous areas, nothing in it that's interesting.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, I did think the DLC was lacking in that respect. Yeah, I
Dang,
still stand by that.
I'm gonna have to play Elden Ring, but I really don't want to torture myself. It doesn't have like an easy mode, does it?
You play it easily by using like certain builds.
Broken builds, basically. Yeah.
You can use broken builds. You can use summons, which are basically ways of having like someone in the arena with you, helping you out so that the boss will attack that instead of you, while you then just throw spells at it. Yeah. There's definitely ways of making the game easier.
Path of Exile and min-maxing my sorceress, which is also fun.
Yep.
Cool, man.
By the way, I'm not trying to like dunk on Zelda, because I do think it's a great game.
That's what this podcast is going to be titled, is Matimio Hates Zelda.
Good. That's it.
We've
that's what I was
hoping the
for.
Podcast title. Thank you for the inspiration there.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
No, I know what you mean, man. It's hey, you're taking a dangerous stance there. You're criticizing a Zelda game, which is like unheard of, you know.
Well, I don't think that they're above criticism. But I do know that Zelda fans are.
Nintendo,
fans.
please don't strike our video, Nintendo.
Oh my God, please.
They're so aggressive. There's have you seen, I was thinking about buying one of these, but I think my son's still a little too young to get his own Game Boy clone, basically, but they're like these it's basically like an emulator player, and it looks like a little Game Boy Pocket, and they're probably made in China or whatever. You buy them on like AliExpress, and they're like $50, and they have like every game ever made from your childhood. And you just play them. They got save features. The screens are really good. Like, it's very impressive. It's like,
and it's for $50.
$50.
Isn't it wild how far we've come?
Yeah, well, I mean, the people who make it, I don't think are too happy. You know, it's like the Foxconn situation where they got nets up on the buildings so they don't die when they jump off. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what I assume when I play something that is that impressive for $50. I'm like, the people who made this were not happy there.
I mean, or it's just been automated to the point where it doesn't mean that everyone, I mean, you're probably right, but it doesn't mean that everything that you consume is horribly manufactured in awful conditions. It's
not everything, but the vast majority of it. Yeah.
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 We do live in a society, Level Cap. We do.
We do. Anyway, I was very impressed with what it was, and I was thinking about getting it for my son because then he can like load up Zelda, Link to the Past, all the old. You could play Final Fantasy 3 and stuff on there. You know, like the old school games, which are still very good games. You know, like they hold up, like they're solid. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wait one more year before I fully just. He's got enough electronics.
Speaking about living in a society, I saw this YouTube video.
Yeah.
And it was about this young girl. She was at 19. She's like, I don't want to rent. I don't want to have to spend $2,000 each month giving it to someone and not owning the property. I'm like, yeah, girl, get it. And so she bought like an RV. I'm like, okay, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, you're 19 and you somehow bought an RV? Like,
well, is it like cheap? Some crappy old RV?
No, it looked nice. I think they renovated it, but it still looked like decently nice. How did you do that?
You can get a home loan to buy an RV, I believe. So because it counts 19? As like a home. Well, I don't. Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is,
did somebody co-finance her?
That's probably what happened, and that's great. I'm not disagreeing, and I think I love when you get parents and you get people helping their children and trying to get them a nice footing. But then I saw this great tweet at one point where it was like, why don't people just take out invest in something like bonds? Just take out $3 million in bonds, and that gives you $80,000 in disposable income every single. I was like, where am I going to get the $3 million from, Jonathan?
Yeah. Like, I got a lot of business opportunities for you if you got $3 million, Matt. Yeah, come talk to me, dude. I'll give you some great investment strategy. If you want some passive
income, just invest in U.S. bonds. It's like, okay.
Well, how did it turn out for RV Girl? Did it go well?
Oh, I mean, she's got it. She seems like she's doing well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know what RVs videos, run. So. They're probably like $100,000 or something like that.
No,
are they more?
I mean, if you get an RV, those are they're very expensive.
How much does an RV cost? I'm obviously not in the RV market. This one's $130,000, $170,000. That's more expensive.
Yeah. They ain't cheap.
So here's a used one for $62,000, but it looks like just a trailer, not like the full RV. Oh yeah, in fact, some of these ones.
That's what she did.
The $130,000 one is just a trailer, but I mean, so did she buy like a trailer for?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know, but I don't remember at age 19, having even close to enough money to be able to buy anything close to that. So
yeah, well, you get a loan. That's what it is, because you can get.
No, I know.
They give you a different class of loan for them, and so that's how people buy them. And then you're basically paying off a mortgage or a vehicle type thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Google is saying between $35,000 to $100,000 is the most price range for them.
It reminded me of the tweet of the 3 million, where it's like, oh yeah, you could just get a small loan of $1 million, or just use your $3 million to buy bonds, and that's how you can make your money. It's like, okay, John. Cool.
Yeah. No, man, you got to do that cool thing where you're like, so and so put $30 every day into the S&P 500, and now he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
But it's also that
I always get very, very skeptical when I see get rich stuff, content on the internet.
Yeah,
it's like if it is a get rich, you wouldn't tell anyone.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, why do you need people to pay for your get rich tutorial? Aren't you rich, bro? Go live in the Bahamas and sip on your mojitos instead of making this, your tutorial content, like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Of course.
But I will say this. I did know some people who are more in tune with investing in markets at a younger age, and I wish I had been, but that was not like a part of my upbringing, was like learning about banks or investing or anything like that. And I wish it had been, because I probably would have made more responsible financial decisions when I was younger,
And not put money into Doge.
I wish I put money into Doge, Matt. If you had put money into Doge back when everybody was like, you'd be dumb to put money into Doge, you'd be much more wealthy at this point.
Yeah, but only because it was a meme and it had a huge chance of not making money, just like every other dumb cryptocurrency out there.
Yeah, but you picked a funny example because you'd be like, if you bought Doge back when Elon was like joking about it in the early days, then you'd have so much money right now,
Potentially, yeah. Potentially.
Buy your Bitcoin.
The same way if I went to the casino and I put all on black and I got really lucky. Yeah, you're right. I would have made a lot of money too.
Yeah. Okay. A slightly different analogy.
Dude, it's literally what? No, it's not. It's literally all nonsense.
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about the stock market to a degree. It's all just
to a degree, but it's all based off of companies that actually have capital and have like infrastructure
that exist.
And
yeah.
So
but it's also just based on what we perceive their value to be. All of a sudden, a company goes from being perceived at $300 a share to like $50 a share, and you're like, did anything actually change at the company? No, it's just like they announced that like next year they might not do something, and everybody's like, oh, sell.
But at least it's better than literally nothing at all. If you can't tell, I'm very hesitant when it comes to cryptocurrency. I'm not like blaming anyone who wants to get into it. Like
you should.
Do you, but
don't buy it aside from my crypto that I've made.
yeah.
Aside from the Level With Me podcast coin. That one's really good. Oh, you didn't buy the Hokta crypto. Octua, whatever.
Whatever it's called. Yeah. No, I did not. I didn't get into that one.
You didn't want that one? All right.
Well, I heard she apologized and she's kind of going to try to rectify it, but I haven't looked into it any further.
Is she still a thing, or has...
I mean, she's pretty big now that this controversy's come out.
Matt, this podcast could be so much bigger if you just went out on the streets and did an interview with somebody with some salacious thing in there. Would be huge.
Huge. We
just
could
get out there.
Yeah.
Get out there and say something, Matt.
I mean, you could do that too.
You know what? I got things to do. Okay,
You're also a family man. You can't be.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not tied down yet, Matt. You can get out there. You can have your Hoktui moment. God.
I hope I don't have that moment specifically.
Yeah, that was definitely a 2024 moment for me where I was like, we've been on the internet for a while and we've seen just about everything, but that one did surprise me where I was like, why is this chick on like 80 talk shows and podcasts all of a sudden? This is insane.
What's crazy is that she could have her podcasts are getting hundreds of thousands of views, and it's a podcast, so it's long form, which means she's making absolute bank. And then if you get any sponsors for that, like you're making absolute bank. It's like you could have just rode that into the sunset for a couple of years and you would have been fine.
Yeah.
But then you decided to pull a rug pull.
Well, I mean, she clearly had a managerial team that was like, we're going to do everything. We're going to do mugs and t-shirts and a podcast and a crypto coin. And that was just one of the things. Yeah. So all of it was working. And then they're like,
until it wasn't.
Crypto rug pull. And
I have a feeling that she did not have a role in that. I mean, maybe she did, but she's probably very ignorant to it.
She understands the nuances of crypto rug pulls. Probably not.
Exactly. So there was probably a lot of managerial, tomfoolery in the background where she's like, yeah, well, sure, this is working. And like you said, it just probably spiraled too fast and she got overwhelmed.
I think we should do Matimio coin. If you guys are watching the podcast and you know how to make a crypto coin, hit us up. And we'll make the Matimio coin.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'll find some way to get you to sign a paper that like has a clause buried that like you give us permission to use your likeness for something. And then Matimio coin will pop up. You'd be like, what is happening here?
It's just my face.
Yeah, it'll be good. YouTubers need their cryptocurrency, you know?
Of course they do.
We need it.
Yeah.
For sure. It's going to save us from the banks, right?
Yes, the banks. It's going to save us from the banks.
Did you play Death Stranding? I'm looking at your notes all of a sudden.
I did. I'm still playing it. I played it for 3 days.
Yeah, you getting prepped for the sequel? Is that it? You're getting hyped?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I never played the original, so I'm going through it now, obviously.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's what everyone said it was, but it's a wild and kind of great experience.
Yeah. I'm so curious to check it out now because of the fact that paths and things have been established by the world. Like that concept really sounds super interesting.
Yeah. So when you get into it originally, there are no paths. So you basically have to like create your own routes to where you need to go. But then once you establish connections to these little outlets, then you start to notice other people's like constructions and stuff around, which is cool, which is like kind of the cooperative nature of the game.
So it gives you a little bit of your own experience. And then it's like, now that you got a feel for it, we're going to inject.
Then it starts to give you a little bit more help. Yeah. And it becomes more of a group effort, even if you don't ever see these people and anything, but you're still having to do a lot of it on your own. But yeah, everyone makes fun of it because it's a walking simulator, and it is a walking simulator, but it does it in such an interesting way, and they give you tools to overcome different challenges. And in reality, it is a post office simulator. You are literally a post office worker, and you're just trying to connect up the United States, which is actually the United Cities of America. So United States of America, the UCA. And it's calming. It's a weird, like the music will kick in at certain moments, and it just makes you like oddly emotional, and it makes it feel like you're like on a journey. It's hard to describe, but like a lot of people say it's an experience, and now I'm starting to understand why. But it's also very Kojima. And it makes no sense.
Well, I love that you say it's calming, and then it's like anyone who's seen the original trailer, you're like, that looks anything but calming. It looks like nightmare fuel from start to finish. And people are like, yeah, it's just my chill game. It's the game that I play when I want to chill out. And you're like,
yeah, there's moments where you come across these creepy anomaly-like things that try to kill you and stuff, but then you just have an open section where you're walking through a field.
Yeah. I think that's I very much appreciate that kind of game design where it's hard to communicate it because it's about nuance. Because if you tried to tell somebody what Death Stranding was going to be gameplay wise, they'd be like, I'm not funding this project. That's insane.
Right.
You're going to make a game where I just walk for really long distances, and like that's going to be the whole thing. That's going to be like the vast majority of the gameplay. But then if you've got the idea in your head and you're like, okay, well, it's going to be about the nuances. It's going to be about the music. It's going to be about what you see in the distance. It's going to be about the sound it makes when you crunch grass under your foot, and like all the little things it's about nuanced design. And I love that kind of thing where you're like, why am I loving this game so much? Nothing's really happening, but I'm just like vibing right now. And that's an art form, man. That's something that few people can pull off, but when they do, it's kind of magical.
A lot of people criticize it, and still to this day, because it is just they say it's a walking simulator and all that. But I also find it ironic because many people are like, we want new games, we want new ideas, we want something fresh, and then they poke fun at something that's trying something that is actually fresh and new, right? Like there isn't really a Strand. I mean, they're going to call them Strand games, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so what's kind of fun about it is there is building. A little bit of spoilers. You build like roads, for example, and there'll be a really tough patch where you have to like get in a car or a vehicle through all these rocks is nearly impossible. But then you slowly, with time and delivering packages and delivering resources, you build a road, and then that road gets you over that rough patch, and now you're just like you're actually connecting, like you're bringing these people together. And there's something about that that's really hard to put into words for why it works. but it does.
Yeah, satisfying progression loop that like you see the results of.
And you physically see the results, and you also experience it because it now becomes just like for us, right? Like in the past when people had, little communities, right? But there was no roads, all of a sudden you got a road. Now everything becomes much more interconnected, right? It's much easier to travel, right? It's kind of like doing that, but in a video game.
Yeah. And you have a little baby in a jar.
Yeah. You got your little BB.
A little baby in the jar.
It's called a BB.
Oh, BB.
BB. Yeah, a BB.
A BB.
The BB.
Yeah, that was a good trailer, man. I mean, if you want to grab somebody, what's so funny about that is like it could have just been like a post-apocalyptic Postman game, I think there was a movie called like The Postman or something that was like that essentially. But it's like, yeah, but how are you going to sell that? I'm like, well, what if we got some babies in a jar and these crazy creatures that come out of the tower and like try and
it's weird.
Yeah, just get really weird. And then like, okay, yeah, I think we can sell it.
It's definitely weird. It's also got some Kojima oddities too. There's a scene, I'm not trying to try to spoil it, but there's a particular woman who is like, she does not wearing a whole lot. And then it's a pretty like tough scene. And then there's just like panning of ass shot. I'm just like, what? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I like butts, but like there's a time and a place, and this feels like a weird time for this shot right now.
I support it, Matt. What's funny is I just saw that you wrote Dead Internet Theory on your notes, and I didn't even see that before. I just
That's
brought
actually
it up.
funny because I thought you were literally only transitioning because of that comment. I was like, wow, he's really good at this.
Yeah. Well, maybe I am. No, we were just having, you know what it is? We're on the same algorithm. The internet was like, hey.
We are.
Did you see the Dead Internet Theory? Think about that for a while.
Yep.
Pretty wild. Well, I've got some fireworks stuff to get to in the near future. I mean, technically this podcast is coming out on New Year's Day, right? Yeah, New Year's Day. Yep. But we're recording on New Year's Eve, and so I'm going to take the kids to go see some, explosions and, all that America stuff. Or I guess the whole world does.
America.
The whole world does fireworks, let's be honest.
It's not just us.
We do it in the suburbs, and that's what it's about. Creating fire hazards. It's very cold and wet and rainy here.
I doubt it's going to be a problem.
But yeah, I think we can wrap up the old Potteroonie there. Thank you guys for joining us for 2024. Looking forward to 2025. We're going to become Gymfluencers, so watch out for our socials on that. Once again, we have the Patreon in the description. Thank you guys for supporting us on Patreon. Thanks for dropping by our live streams when we record the podcast. We appreciate it, and thanks for hanging out for post-podcast live stream discussions, which get very risque, as Matt knows. Matt is going to leave you guys with some super useful advice. Life advice.
Congratulations on making another year. 2025, if you are going to be participating in the old New Year's resolutions, I wish you luck, but just try to make it into a regular thing that you do. Don't rely on motivation. So I wish you luck. Motivation sucks, level cap. It's fleeting.
Don't rely on motivation.
Yeah, don't rely on motivation.
Okay. I thought everything was reliant on motivation.
I mean, you can rely on, like, that can get you the kickstart to like.
Well, what's the alternative? Rely on habit?
Discipline
and habit. Okay.
Yeah.
Discipline.
Like for example, I make my bed every day. I don't make my bed every day because I enjoy making my bed every day. I do it because I do it every day.
So, but you're not motivated to make your bed.
I'm not motivated to make my bed every day. Yeah.
Interesting. I think we're getting into semantics on this one here.
No, trust me. Trust me.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever been motivated to have you ever had like a moment where you're like, I want to go to the gym. I want to get excited. I want to get strong. You ever had that moment where we're like, I'm going to eat better. And then for like a week you eat better, right?
Yeah.
That was because it was motivation. It wasn't because of you didn't have a habit. You didn't create habits and discipline.
Right. But then the idea is that you get there through motivation, and then it can be the thing that kickstarts it. Yeah. And then you go, okay, like now I feel good and I'm associating this habit with feeling good. So I'm going to continue this habit.
Right. Which can be started from motivation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
But they are two different things.
Okay. Fair enough.
At least in my eyes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Semantics, potentially, or you're onto something.
But sure.
All right. Well, if you're gonna get out there in the gym, listen to Matt. He knows what he's talking about. How many handstand push-ups can you do?
I don't know.
Come on.
You think I'm over here just doing handstand push-ups? I have no idea.
It's literally what you do on your streams, maybe? Isn't it?
I do handstands. I don't do handstand push-ups.
No. Oh. Okay. Well, you should throw some push-ups in there, Matt.
I should. I can maybe do one.
Okay. You'll get my sub.
And then
you'll get my subscription
over.
if you do some handstand push-ups.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There we go.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys again for dropping by the podcast, listening to us aging gamers. We are 1 year older. Looking forward to that next year, man.
Hell yeah.
Woo. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Take care.